What if Urshifu Rapid Strike was in Gen 1 OU? Oh boy, did this Pokemon cause a lot of debate. I will get into it more once again to the moveset, but just know that there are some very differing opinions when it comes to how this thing would function in Gen 1. And I'll be honest, it's mostly just me versus everyone else. But I see a lot of potential in this guy, and I think a lot of that has to do with a single move that changes some Pokemon from unwinnable to either bad or could go either way. Which I know that definitely doesn't sound good, and it's not. But luckily for Urshifu, it already has some good things going for it. Mainly its typing, its signature move, and other things. So it doesn't matter too much, but I think we should get right into it. Now starting off, we're doing Rapid Strike over Single Strike. And that's for two reasons. For one, obviously, Single Strike, it's a Dark type. And for my videos, it doesn't really matter too much. Literally, the last video I just included was a Steel type. And no one cares about that. But I figured it's just kind of easier just to go for a Fighting Water type. Especially since, for those of you who are familiar with Gen 1 custom games, you guys already know that Dark typing, it works fine defensively, but it doesn't hit anything super effectively. So Ghost and Psychic take neutral from it, and since it is a special move, because Dark was special in Gen 2, it'll probably be fine. It'll be a special slash, I guess, but I think Rapid Strike probably has a more interesting signature move for two reasons. For one, it's 25 base power, but then it hits 3 times and it's a guaranteed crit. With 63 special attack, that's close to Snorlax's special. But to be honest, Snorlax isn't really using special because, it wants to hit things super effectively. Ice Beam is just an easy move to use because Snorlax is bulky, and you're able to fish for freezes, which is good to do, because for many other Snorlax, they're probably using Reflect. And if they're using Reflect, then, Ice Beam might as well be the best thing you can do, since Body Slam's taking half damage. But for Surging Strikes, not only are you getting Stab, so Stab just already inherently makes it do more damage, but you're hitting 3 times and each time is a crit. So it's effectively 50 base power each time you hit, and 3 times is 150, which is, Hyper Beam. So it essentially has a special Hyper Beam from a base 63 a Pokemon, which already not really up to a great start. Although to be fair, if a Pokemon has Stab Hyper Beam, I don't think it matters how low the attack stat is. You kinda have to respect it. For example, Lickitung. I think Lickitung has a really bad attack stat, but since it has Sword Stance and Stab Hyper Beam, I wouldn't use it. But it's something you theoretically can use and have some merit with when it comes to putting it in RBY. But it's a little bit better for Surging Strikes here because obviously there's things like Rhydon, so already you have things that you can hit super effectively, which is more than I can say for Single Strike. But also just a Stab Water move that just does decent damage. If you don't use Rock Slide, it's also your only way to hit Gengar. And I'm pretty sure it does more damage to Gengar than Rock Slide does. But I don't think it matters too much, because it's basically unwinnable anyways. The typing itself, I'm gonna say it's probably not as good as Single Strike, because, Electric weakness, Grass weakness, kinda bad. Psychic immunity, kinda good. At the same time, that Water weakness comes in very handy. Resisting Ice, I'd argue, that might even be a bigger deal than being immune to Psychic. Because, I don't know, I feel like Blizzards are probably being used more than Psychics. I don't think it matters anyway, because things that 100% will always be Single Strike cannot do much to Rapid Strike. The main example being Cloyster. Granted, Single Strike can hit Cloyster with strong special damage, but Rapid Strike here just resists all of its moves. It resists Blizzard, it resists Clamp, so that's already a good start. And then with Slowbro, Single Strike is, I guess it's critting, so it might do decent damage, but to be honest, I just don't think it'll be enough. But I'll do Single Strike one day, so maybe I could be wrong. But Rapid Strike here actually can survive a Slowbro if it gets up to max special, which gives you chances to go for Body Slam, and a move that I promise you we'll talk about later, and that being Mega Kick. So, ups and downs, but I think Water Fighting is a pretty interesting type, and one you can take advantage of because you have Stab Low Kick, along with a good speed stat. Speaking of stats, I think we should go to that next. Now, the special, most people would probably say it's pretty bad, but I've done so many RBY videos that I'm going to say, yeah, I think I am going to say that 60 is the average. And if it's average, obviously could be better, but very, very usable. 100 defense and 100 HP means that you're pretty physically bulky. You can tank a few body slams of things like Starx and Tauros, which ends up being huge. At 130 attack is also just really good, especially with Low Kick. This thing would completely take over Machamp's niche. And Machamp, as any of you RBY people would know, you can use it in OU, but you have to use it on teams with heavy paralysis support, where you're trying to flinch things with a Low Kick. Not the most honorable strategy, but it's something that Machamp is able to do. And part of the reason that makes Urshifu better, outside of, having better coverage with a signature move, having a secondary typing, but also just being faster. I think being faster is a big deal. Granted, regular Machamp is already faster than Chansey. I'm pretty sure it's base 55. So you're able to threaten it, outspeed, Low Kick, maybe you get a flinch. But with 97, you're faster than Jinx, which already makes you one of the fastest mons in the tier. But more importantly, and this is something that Machamp can't really brag about, and it's the fact that you have a real crit rate. A crit rate that you have to respect. A crit rate that can help you one-shot Chansey without even needing to, go for the flinch. That's a pretty big deal. And with Body Slam, you can fish for paralysis yourself. But spoiler alert, you're using this thing on teams with heavy paralysis. So I'm gonna say you shouldn't need to rely on Body Slam. Hopefully you can rely on your other moves. But still, it's always nice to have. You don't have another choice. And I'm gonna say, I think Low Kick is a good move. Like, I don't know, I'm always kind of struck on it, because I feel like it should be banned, because obviously flinching is kind of, there's not too much sportsmanship with it. But I don't know, it feels like fighting types need it, because you get rid of Low Kick and you got Submission and Double Kick, which Submission is just awful. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. Although, to be honest, I think that's more so because of the recoil rather than the accuracy. And Double Kick I actually do kind of like. I do think Double Kick does do alright when we have fighting types in RBY. For example, Tracheon, that's pretty fast, and I feel like it's able to take advantage of Double Kick pretty well. And a lot when he didn't have high jump kick, I'm assuming he would use Double Kick, and those would hit pretty hard. But Low Kick is probably better because of that flinch chance, even if I feel like it's, most things shouldn't have it. I think I beat around the bush, so I think it's finally time to talk about the elephant in the room. And the reason why this sparked a full-on debate in my server. Yes, I have Mega Kick on here. And here are some of the other moves that Urshifu can use. And I know some of you are probably wondering why I don't add Hyper Beam or Sword Stance. Sword Stance is in Gen 9, and for these videos, I always go with the original moveset. And the reason for doing that is because, for two reasons. One, a lot of times I feel like it just adds to the RBY charm if some things just are missing key components in their moveset. Aerodactyl with Rock Slide is a good example of that. But another reason is because it makes the videos more interesting depending on which generation you're doing. Like, for example, whenever I do Pokemon on Gen 9, I'm usually under the assumption, okay, these things might suffer a lot because a lot of Sun and Moon Pokemon don't normally get Body Slam or Hyper Beam. So it's fun to, try to make it work, or to just kind of acknowledge, yeah, this thing suffers a lot, but you know what, it might still have some tools that can make it work. And again, that's another example here. If this thing had Sword Stance, if I gave it its Gen 9 move pool, then obviously this would be very easy. I can just give this Sword Stance, and then Body Slam and Low Kick. Yeah, that's going to hit really hard. Maybe you even remove Surging Strikes and just go for Hyper Beam if it has that in another generation. But I feel like that kind of, I don't know, in some ways it's kind of boring like that. Now, I'll go over these other moves first, because mainly Rock Slide. But these other moves could have some uses, but at the end of the day, aren't really worth it. I'll go from worst to best. Counter, I mean, you have the bulk to, handle Body Slams and stuff, but you already have Stab Low Kick, so either you're not speeding Tauros anyways, and you should just go for, like, a stab move, just to beat it. And for Chansey and Snorlax, obviously, just use Low Kick. Low Kick is going to threaten them so much anyways. And anything else using Body Slam against you, which I'm already struggling to think about what that would even be if it's not a normal type. It doesn't really matter. Counter just isn't going to give you options. Leer is kind of weird. Rhydon uses it, but the big reason for why Rhydon uses it, along with Substitute, is because not only does Zapdos and Jolteon give you very easy access to set it off, but they just can't hurt you, period. That cannot be said for Urshifu. Leer is just, even with Leer, I don't think Body Slam or Low Kick are doing any more significant damage. And Substitute, honestly, if this was modern Substitute, then I would say it's worth it. But if you're gonna get hit with Sweet Powder or Thunder Wave anyways, I think it's just not overall worth it. Now, Rock Slide is the move that everyone's been trying to tell me is better, which, I'm sorry, but none of you failed to convince me. Rock Slide only felt like a win more towards anything you want to use it against. For example, you'll see with the Cloyster replay, but Thunder Punch and Low Kick both do around the same amount of damage. And, oh yeah, Thunder Punch. I guess we can remove Counter and put that there instead. Thunder Punch, TLDR, it's a special move, which you would think would be good against Cloyster, but even with Cloyster's high defense, Low Kick ends up being around the same amount anyways, so you might as well go for the flinch chance. But yeah, Rock Slide. Against Cloyster, you just don't need it, because Low Kick is already good enough. So what about Jinx? Jinx, yeah, I'll admit, Rock Slide is more accurate, and since it's super effective, it's going to do a lot of damage. So maybe you can consider it, but that's like the only time I might kinda. But I'm someone that very often goes over the big picture. And like I said earlier, this thing would take Machamp's place with paralysis support teams. So because of that, what are you mostly going to use this thing on? Against teams that are already paralyzed, which means you're using this thing in the late game. How often is Jinx alive in the late game? It is a lead. It is a lead that you might get rest off on, but even with rest, it's probably dying in the mid game. The interactions between Urshifu and Jinx are just gonna be rare, and I think I kind of cope. Speaking of which, that's the other thing. It's not like you OHKO with Rock Slide. If you OHKO, then like, sure, I would definitely understand it. But you have a Psychic Pokemon that you have to go up against. You're better off using Low Kick and hoping for a flinch. And if you get a flinch, at that point, I don't think it matters what move you're using. Whether it's Hyper Beam, or like, I don't know, like Earthquake, Stone Edge. Like, obviously it doesn't have these, but like, if you get a flinch off Jinx or get a crit, anything can kill it at that point. So what is Rock Slide doing there? So then that goes to some of the borderline Pokemon. Articuno's been seeing more usage. Dragonite's always pretty good. And yeah, against those things, it might be the best bet. But I just don't think it's just worth it. Not against, like, Pokemon that, you're not guaranteed to go up against. Now, here are my arguments for my Mega Kick is the best move you can use. And yes, 75 accuracy, not the best. But also, I feel like people seriously over exaggerate when it comes to low accuracy moves. Like, Focus Blast has been used so much over the years. And yes, people make fun of it and call it Focus Miss. But it's even less accurate than Mega Kick. And that's worth considering using. Now, if this thing had Hyper Beam, you would 100% use Hyper Beam instead. And not sure if you can tell from all of these other fourth moves, but all of them kind of suck. Their main strategy is more so with Body Slam, Surging Strikes, and Will Kick. But I promise you, Mega Kick is the reason for why fights against Victreebel or Slowbro are able to be won. Like I said, you resist Surf, and Slowbro needs to paralyze you, and it needs to go for multiple amnesias. It's just not going to be able to beat it with Rock Slide. And don't forget that Rock Slide doesn't have a flinch chance in Gen 1. So, against Slowbro, going for crits and getting hit with Mega Kick, that's like the only way you could win those matchups. And for other things that would be normally unwinnable. Alakazam, Starmie, Executor. Again, you're using this thing in the late game. And if those things are paralyzed, you have to respect Mega Kick. Quaz and Moscato said they wouldn't, but that's cope. Like, if you have like a half HP Starmie, like, yeah, you might be able to go for the kill. You might try to paralyze it. But you are straight up lying to me if you're gonna tell me that with a paralyzed Pokemon, you're not gonna be scared of being hit with a 120 base power move with a Pokemon with a high crit rate. I'd rather let the replays do more of the talking, but yes, it's not the best. And the way I would describe it would be the best of the worst options. But a high base power move, I think you need. I honestly think you need. You don't even get Earthquake. If it had Earthquake, I would use it instead. Especially since that actually gives you a way to beat Gengar. But you don't have Earthquake. You have 3 moves that you're always going to want to use. But you know what? If those other things are, you have to face them, I genuinely think gambling with 75%, which, by the way, if you actually did go to a casino, anything with 75% is probably worth going for, I'll be real. But that's just my argument. You'll see it in the replays, or at least some of them. I did use Rock Slide and Thunder Punch as well. But I think we should just go into it. I'll talk more about this more when it becomes relevant for certain Pokemon. But for now, let's get started. And of course, we start with the boy himself, that being Tauros. Since you're not faster against an unparalyzed Tauros, it's probably better just to go for Surging Strikes anyways. As you can see there, it's like almost half. I really hope that it's, like, I don't know if it's a damage range or not, but either way, it still could go either way. In fact, there's a decent chance that Tauros actually needed that crit to kill with Hyper Beam. So, yeah, I don't know what else I can really say here. Other than, obviously, it becomes way better if Tauros is paralyzed. But getting Tauros paralyzed is way easier said than done. Next up, we have Snorlax. And yeah, that flinch chance is, yeah, it's kind of annoying. You're kind of a bitch, not gonna lie. You can very easily cheese wins with that. And obviously, unless it's like resisted the Will Kick, you should almost always use Will Kick over anything else. Assuming you're, again, faster. We have another Snorlax replay. This one's basically identical, but I actually did manage to get a Reflect Off. I was considering making another replay, just, one where he gets Reflect Off sooner and then goes for Rest. But I don't think it matters too much. Because even if it does get a Reflect Off on the first turn, as you saw, Will Kick is already doing a third. So it makes more sense no matter what for Snorlax to go for rest. And if it goes for rest, that gives at least 2 turns. You can just feel free to hit with Surging Strikes. And if you hit with Surging Strikes, then I'd have to go for rest again. Or, even if it's doing less damage, it might just be worth going for Well Kick, both for the flinch and fishing for the crit. Now that I'm actually thinking about it, and especially with Amnesia Wax sort of just being a gimmick now I'm thinking, Snorlax, would I be crazy to put Snorlax in Great? Because honestly, the more I think about it, the more it just seems like kind of impossible for Wax to beat. Can't really say the same for Chansey. Overall, I'd still say it's a good matchup because Thunder Wave and Thunderbolt are both moves that can very easily just kill the Urshifu. But at the same time, as you see here, theoretically it can go Great in Chansey's favor. But not only are Chanseys getting paralyzed pretty freaking commonly in Gen 1, but do you risk it even if it's healthy? Do you risk a flinch? Do you risk a crit from Urshifu? The rewards could be nice, but I don't know. Also, I know some of you are probably thinking I'm being a hypocrite for making this argument here, when I'm also trying to say that Mega Kick is usable. But again, for Mega Kick, it really is more of a last resort. And as you can see here with Chansey, it's a risk, but it can work too. Chansey can paralyze Urshifu, go for Thunderbolt, and win. If it doesn't get flinch, if it doesn't get crit. Oh yeah, I guess I should state, if it's Ice Beam or Seismic Toss, obviously with those ones, Urshifu kind of just auto-wins. It's not even funny. Oh, I guess Rest is technically a move you can also use, but since you're weak to Grass, Electric, and Psychic, you probably don't have many chances to wake up. Here we have Alakazam, and things are not going well here. Against a 1v1, it's pretty much unwinnable, but if it's paralyzed, then with Mega Kick, you might be able to win. It's risky, but as you see there, even just regular Body Slam without Stab already did about half. So Mega Kick, like, at the very least, it will be a consistent 2-hit KO. So if Zama's paralyzed, it kind of has to respect that. And you're lying if you say you won't. Now for Cloyster. I used Thunder Punch here, but I figured out pretty quickly when you, like, ignore the crits, it's doing about the same as Low Kick. And if it's doing about the same as Low Kick, then yes, it's more accurate, but Low Kick has a chance to flinch, so I think that's probably just better. I also didn't even bother using Thunder Punch on Starmie. I assume for Starmie and Slowbro, it really didn't matter. Starmie, I think, straight up wouldn't care, and Slowbro would be boosting its special. And yes, with Urshifu against Slowbro, you're fishing for crits anyways. You might as well do something that's going to do the same amount of damage every time you hit. That way you can actually force Slowbro to go for rest, which you can't really do if you're only relying on just Thunder Punch. Here we have Executor, and it's pretty much unwinnable no matter what. But I guess it's worth noting that Mega Kick, it does decent. It does about a third. So, I think you're probably losing no matter what. But if you get Executor paralyzed, I don't know, you might cheese it, but not really in your best favor. But that's the good thing about team building. You have more than one Pokemon. So if you have things that can take care of the Gengar and Executor, which I don't think is too unreasonable to do, then maybe you can make it work. Now against Gengar. Again, didn't bother with Rock Slide. But there is, that's Surging Strikes. It did about like 32%, I think. So a little bit better than a 4-hit KO. Not really good, but at the same time, that right there is decent chip on Gengar that Gengar is not getting back. So getting chip up down an already frail Pokemon, you're not going to beat a 1v1, but hey, if they think you're going to go for a low kick, trying to switch in, that's decent chip on Gengar. So you can make that work. Now here's Slowbro. Now, obviously a lot of this does rely on you getting paralysis with Body Slam, which, isn't always guaranteed. But also, there's plenty of other good partners, such as Chansey and, let's say, Stunspore Executor that can help Urshifu. So yeah, as you see there, this time, you did get lucky. There were 2 Mega Kick crits. But also, I did miss the first one. I think you'll see with the second Starmie replay, and yes, there's going to be 2 of them. I didn't want to just show Will Kick all or Mega Kick always hitting, because yeah, you will probably lose some games if you miss a critical Mega Kick. At the same time, Will Kick itself is already 89% because of the 1-256 glitch. It's already a not fully accurate move, so it genuinely does not matter which moves you're using. Even Rock Slide itself is 90 accuracy. You just don't have guaranteed stuff with Urshifu, which really sucks. But let's keep moving on. And this time we have... Oh, I think I forgot to add the Jinx replay. Okay, that's a shame. I'll just give you the TLDR with the Jinx replay while this one happens. And this is the replay where I got way too lucky. But for Jinx, basically, I just went for Low Kick, Jinx flinched, and then went for Rock Slide, which killed. So, like, you don't really need to really visualize that. You can probably already imagine that you just either flinch or bust. You don't get O-Code, I don't think, because you're high HP, but it's a... I guess I'll be generous and call it a could go either way. But here we have the real Starmie versus Urshifu replay. And here, Starmie goes for Thunder Wave. Although, there might be an argument just go for a super effective move if you have it. And Mega Kick does 69% with a crit. Nice, not gonna lie. But yeah, it can miss. But if Starmie's paralyzed, that is doing like a third. I think that's enough to where you can no longer call Starmie unwinnable. And this straight up isn't something possible if you are using Rock Slide. And yes, you just saw Mega Kick miss twice in a row. But if you're someone that tried debating me on this in the server, please tell me the alternative. If instead you're using Rock Slide there, or if it's already paralyzed, you're just continuing to go for Body Slam. Is that so much better? Like, yes, if you get 2 crits with Body Slam, that's probably going to kill Starmie. But also, if you're not getting the crits, I don't think you're going to force Starmie to feel obligated to go for Recover. 2 Mega Kicks can make it forced to go for Recover. Or at the very least, like, force them to sack it off. Especially for Slowbro. How do you plan on being Slowbro without Mega Kick? Like, over any other video, I'm really going to need to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Because I swear, I can't be the only one. I'm sure Zach and Theus probably agrees with me, because he's the same guy who, just like me, tried testing with Thunder Iron Hands in Generation Jumble Season 2. But, yeah, like, I know it doesn't look pretty. And I can't say this enough that you're using the best of the bad options. But this is RBY. This is what you're supposed to do. People use things like Pinsir, Dragonair, Aerodactyl, very weird Pokemon that have basically nothing going for them. But in RBY, you can manage to make things worse, or not worse, work. And look at 2 OU Pokemon, Jolteon and Zapdos. They get completely and utterly walled by Rhydon. But you don't try to, like, add tech options to them. I don't think RBY is about coverage. If you have things like Thunder Punch and Ice Punch, that doesn't mean you should always use it to help you have, consistent matchups against everything. I think it's more about taking a Pokemon's maximum potential and going through with that. And for Urshifu here, against things like Gengar, I honestly think you're better off just accepting the loss against that, instead of having something like Rock Slide to, 4-hit KO in a worst case scenario, and having Rock Slide in case they have Articuno or in case they have Dragonite. But that's just my philosophy. You guys can disagree with me if you want. I'm not trying to be aggressive about it. I'm just trying to get my points across. And I'm trying to, have arguments and examples for that. And I'm got another example here. The Victory Bell. You're not beating this thing with Rock Slide, or Counter, or Thunder Punch. But you know what? Mega Kick actually gives you a way to do enough damage in time. And sometimes you might miss. And that could bone you. But what's the alternative? The alternative is to put this thing against Dragonite. Have Dragonite go for, Thunder Wave, Wrap, Hyper Beam. go against Lapras, which has Thunderbolt anyways, I just feel like it's better off just teching for, the Pokemon that are actually in OU. And for Mega Kick, I still don't think 75 accuracy is that bad. And yes, it's not as good as Hyper Beam, but another thing that's good is that you're not having to recharge. You can use 2 low kicks in a row. Not low kicks, Mega Kicks. It gets confusing because there's so much kicking involved. But you get the point. I think you get the point by now, so I won't try to go too much into it. Next, I'll go on this Zapdos replay. And I won't kid you, I won't try to be dishonest. This is a very, very lucky Urshifu replay, where even when it's lucky, it still wasn't enough. In the tier list, I think I have Zapdos in bad. And I'm not gonna like Josh. I'm not gonna have this replay here and be like, oh, you see, it almost went. If it got a crit, then it would be and could go either way. Because, spoiler alert, before making this replay you saw here, I had 7 different replays in a row where Urshifu got crit in one shot or it just missed Mega Kick. So, like, yes, like, I am, like, pretty adamant on this, but I'm also not gonna, like, lie to you about some things. Yeah, it's just pretty bad. Now, we have one more replay to go over before going over the tier list, and this is the mirror match, which I'm now doing in some of these videos, where I feel like it's interesting or makes sense. And for here, it's honestly more so just trying to go for, paralysis first. And once you get paralysis, try to go for, flinching. Try going for Mega Kick, but because of your high defense and HP, only about 26%. But I'm pretty confident definitely would have killed with a crit. And probably would do more than base, low kick with stab, but also just go for a low kick. Just go for a low kick no matter what. It's probably the safest move. Although in general, you might be better off just avoiding this. And I feel like for Urshifu, there's plenty of really easy pivots, Like Swelbro, Starmie, and actually Victor Bell, since I don't think you're going to go for low kick too much unless you know for a fact most of the team is paralyzed. So yeah, like, just do that instead. Just try to avoid the mirror match if you can. But here's the replay. Here is the tier list. And again, for those who I debated with, so would that be like, who was that? Riscato, Zashui, Cyber, Plaz. What's changed his replay? Tier list. What's changed its tier list? This is the tier list with Mega Kick in mind. But let's go for Rock Slide instead, alright? So let's take, where is it? Articuno. We can put this in great matchup. And with Rock Slide, you know what? Or actually, nah. I was gonna put this in good matchup, but no. Yeah, you're not consistently getting flinches, so definitely don't do that. Well, with Rock Slide, this is now winnable. This is now winnable. This is now unwinnable. And you're probably not going to get lucky, so this is unwinnable as well. Zapdos, I would say, is still in. Or honestly, this is probably the one exception where you guys are right. With Rock Slide, this is bad matchups. But without it, it's probably going to be unwinnable. Because you're probably not getting lucky like the replay I had there. So, like, please tell me. Like, actually, let's keep going. Let's see here. Dragonite has Thunder Wave, so you're... that doesn't sound like you want to deal with that, even if its other move is like Wizard. Also with Agility, you're not caring about Body Slam Paralysis anyways. Lapras is really tanky, but it has Thunderbolt, so could go either way. So yeah, look at this right here. Does this really look better? Is this really what you think is worth considering instead? Like, if you want to do that, go ahead, but sure, I might sacrifice Zapdos, but I probably wasn't winning anyways. So I'd rather that for these things, having a real shot of winning, and for these two, I'd rather gamble and try to potentially win if I have to, if they're paralyzed. And again, you're not wanting to always go for Mega Kick. It's the best of the worst options. And no one has been able to make a good argument for how Rock Slide is the best of the bad options, because it's not even 100% accurate. If it was accurate, then maybe I'll understand it, but it is a weaker version of Body Slam that is less accurate with no secondary effect. Hmm. I really need to see your guys' comments on this because I can't be crazy here, right? Like, I feel like there has to be people that have similar playstyles than me, where you might as well just go for something that can help you win that you realistically see, instead of something that might sound more round, or yeah, might just sound more rounded in general, but in practice you're just never using. I'd rather have my options always available than focusing on one specific thing and have that thing not even come up. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. I'm not super, like, what's it called, like, passionate about this. I am kind of just argumentative in general, but I'm never trying to be aggressive or rude to people. I just try to, like, have strong arguments and try to be very bold with them. And I'm usually try to put the onus on you to debunk them. If you want to do that, please go ahead and talk in the comments below. I usually part everyone's comments anyways. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.